Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, thanks for anyone who's joining us. It's Mayor Shelley Brindle, and I'm thrilled to be here with our Fire Chief, Tony Tiller. Good afternoon, Chief.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I can't wait till we can do this in person, which hopefully will be in short order. So thanks for joining us today.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, I thought today it would be a great opportunity just to kind of more formally introduce you to the public, even though you've been around for a while, and we'll talk about that. And just give us some background on you and what's going on with the department, your vision for the department, and then take any questions that we might receive from the public.
Okay.
So you game for that?
I'm game. I'm game.
All right. So let's start. I think your backstory is really fantastic, and especially being a native Westfield resident. So why don't we start with your background? How long? When did we swear you in as chief? How long has it been now?
It's coming up on what, 3 years now.
Is it that long? Yeah, I was gonna say 2.5.
Yeah, I got sworn in actually 2 years. I got sworn in
2 years.
July 1st of 2019.
That's right. So coming up on 2 years.
But you also swore me in as the acting chief March 15th of 2019 also.
That's right.
I got sworn in.
And the last year actually feels like 5 years, so I could see why it could feel like you've been chief much longer than
exactly
than what it's been.
Dealing with this COVID issue.
Absolutely. So, Chief, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and, how you got into the fire department, and then ultimately, your ascension in the ranks, if you will, to where you are today.
A little bit about my background. I come from a family of 6 kids. There's 4 boys and 2 girls, and I'm the youngest of 6. I graduated from Westfield High School in 1986 and went on to Seton Hall University, where I attended on a track and field scholarship. And after Seton Hall, I came back to town, and just like any other college kid, you bounce around from job to job trying to make up your mind what you want to do. At first, I wanted to be a police officer. However, a friend of mine who was a firefighter here in town, he kept telling me, you don't want to be a police officer. You don't want to be a police officer. So finally, one day, I guess he kind of nagged me enough that I came down here to 405 North Avenue, and I filled out an application with Chief Walter Ridge. And a couple months later, I found myself in the academy. And that's where I really actually learned that's being a firefighter is what I wanted to do when I started to learn about fire science and all that good stuff. And that was back in 1993. And I became a part of the career department in 97, October 1st of 1997. And from there, everything took off. And in 2004, I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, which was great. And I had my own, I was in charge of my own company coming out of Station 2 on Central Avenue. And then in 2015, I got promoted to the rank of battalion chief. And that's when I came off the line and I came into administration. And in 2016, I made the rank of deputy chief. And then after Chief David Kelly retired in 2019, I was promoted to the rank of chief.
And we are very fortunate. So I have a couple questions for you. First of all, what were your track and field events in college?
I was a sprinter. I ran the 100 meters, 200 meters, and the quarter.
And could you still do it today?
Yeah, it's going to take me a little longer.
Good at all. And when you went into the academy and you just really were smitten, if you will, with fire science and so forth, what was it and what is it about the role of professional firefighter that you were drawn to?
I'll be honest with you, when everyone, you look at fire and everyone is wowed by fire, but when you break it down and you see what creates fire and what elements are involved in it, it was just overwhelming to me. It just took me, And once we started in the academy, once we started actually doing what we call live burns, and you're actually putting out fire and you're enduring the heat beating down on you, it was an adventure, and it just captured me, and I just ran with it. Here I am.
That's so great, right? When you
Yes,
find
it is.
like what you're supposed to be doing, right?
You hear so many people say, "Oh, I miss my calling. Oh, I miss my calling." I didn't. I didn't. I almost did, but I listened to my buddy, and I jumped on the fireboat, and here I am today.
That that is so great. Now talk a little bit. I know talk a little bit about the Westfield Fire Department. Explain a bit. A lot of people say, "Well, we don't have. How many fires do we have in Westfield?" Talk a bit about kind of an overview of the department. Really, the broad services that you guys provide beyond fighting fires, and talk a little bit also about the professional fire department that we have in Westfield, the kind of support we provide surrounding communities, and how we operate relative to many of the volunteer fire departments that exist around us.
Well, just to give everybody a little bit of history about the Westfield Fire Department. The Westfield Fire Department was established in 1875, which was 146 years ago, and it was a volunteer department at the time. And then it evolved into a career department in 1904. The current day Westfield Fire Department consists of 36 sworn firefighters, and we also have two civilian um, administrative assistants. Out of those 36 sworn firefighters, you have, of course, the chief of department, which is me. You have a deputy chief. There are 5 battalion chiefs. One is the fire official in fire prevention. The other 4 are what we consider to be platoon commanders, tour-wide commanders. And then there are 9 captains, and then there are 20 firefighters. So when you when you come to the firehouse, the guys that you see that ride the trucks, that's the line. Those are your guys that are answering the calls and fighting the fires and so on and so forth. And then we have our administrative staff. On the tours consist of 1 battalion chief, the platoon commander, 2 captains, and 5 firefighters. And they house the 2 houses, one at 405 North Avenue, that's headquarters, and the other one's at 1029 Central Avenue. And in these houses, the apparatus that comes out of these houses, I'll start with Station 2 on Central Avenue. There are 2 engines that come out of Station 2. One is a frontline engine, the other one is a reserve engine. And once I explain this, I'll tell you the difference between an engine and a fire truck. All right. And coming out of headquarters, there are also 2 engines, and then there's what we consider to be a quint, which is a truck. It's considered a truck company, but it's a combination of an engine and a truck. The difference: an engine carries water and hose. A truck carries all your ladders, the big ladder on the top, and all your tools and equipment and things of that sort. So the quint that we have at headquarters, it has the ladders, it has the tools, but it also has a water tank and a pump on it. So it can act as either one. So it's a combination piece that we have. And that's my breakdown of my department right now.
Now, when they're not fighting fires, what other services are they providing?
The services that we provide, other than firefighting, of course, you got wires down, you got motor vehicle accidents. All of us are certified EMTs, so we fill in for the Westfield Rescue Squad when they can't get a crew together. We're there, so we do EMS. Any type of storm-related incident, trees on houses, wires down, confined space rescue, trench rescue, hazardous materials. You get locked out of your house, or you get locked in a room in your house. We do lockouts, lock-ins, and we do malfunctioning alarms and a host of other things. The list just goes on and on. So it's not just the guys are sitting here waiting for a fire to happen. There's so much more that happens in this town that the fire department is involved in firsthand.
And I think I've told you my fire story is a year less than I think it was 3 months after I moved into my very old house. This was 20 some years ago. We were hosting Thanksgiving for the first time, and so we had done all our cleanup and dusted the furniture and the whole bit. and everybody was at my house. It was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, 11 o'clock at night. Smoke started filling up the house. We thought it was something to do with the flue in the fireplace, but then the smoke became pretty significant. We ran out. I called 911, and my husband had gone down to the smoke was coming from the basement,
Mm-hmm.
and he went in. We have like a shop in our basement, and he went, and smoke was pouring out of the doors, and he did the dumbest thing I think you should do, and he opened up the doors. The flames were up to the ceiling, and luckily we have fire extinguishers in our house. So my husband was putting out this fire, and literally 92 seconds from the time we called, you guys arrived, and put it out. And it turns out, this is a lesson for me, I guess the end dust rags that we had used to dust we had put into like a contractor bag, and they were enclosed inside the shop. And all they could determine is that they had spontaneously combusted.
Yes.
And because we live in this old balloon frame house, I remember the firemen were like, okay, that was the dumbest thing your husband could have done, was open it up. But he probably saved the house, because if the flames had penetrated the frame, it could have gone all the way up to the ceiling. So we have smoke detectors, we have fire extinguishers all over our house, and I it's given me with this old balloon frame house. It was a big education, but it was immense gratitude to our fire department for their quick response and everything that you guys do. So I have a special place in my heart for the fire department.
Excellent, excellent. One of the things that we try and tell homeowners, because it's a requirement, when you sell your house or you buy a house, it's going to have a fire extinguisher within 10 feet of your kitchen, things of that sort. But it's not something that we recommend that a homeowner does, and pick up that fire extinguisher and actually use it, unless you absolutely know what you're doing with it. The first thing that we totally request you to do is just call 911, get everybody out of the house, and let us, the professionals, come in and do what we do best.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you said some of the services. Talk about what you're doing with seniors. I know you're doing some assessment for seniors. Can you talk about that a little bit with Lifelong Westfield?
We started, and this was in right before COVID really hit. We started a smoke detector program for our seniors here in town. A lot of seniors, they own their homes, and they're in their houses on their own. Their kids are grown up and gone off on their own, and they might not know whether their smoke detectors work or not, or how to change the battery in it, so on and so forth. So I reached out to the Senior Advisory Council, and I tried to start this smoke detector program, to whereas if seniors feel or don't know if their smoke detectors work or not, they can actually ask us to come out to their house and check their smoke detectors. And if they don't work, we will install new smoke detectors for them. And then COVID hit, so that kind of knocked everything to the side for us. But now, with restrictions being lifted and things kind of getting back to normal, we want to get back to providing that service for our seniors.
And I would just encourage, if anybody watching is a senior, knows of a senior that would want that service, I think you can just email Lifelong at I think you know what, Kim, maybe we can put the address for the Lifelong Westfield in the chat, so when we can share that for everybody, so they can just reach out and ask for that assistance.
Yes, and they'll put them on a list, and then they'll forward that list to me, and then we'll get someone out to you.
That's fantastic. Talk about COVID and your team and how you operated a couple ways. One is, how did your guys even function with all the restrictions in a firehouse, and how you did that? And also, were there services or things that you were doing during COVID that wouldn't have been the normal course of business for the fire department?
Well, when COVID hit, I commend my guys and my staff that works with me. We put protocols into effect to protect ourselves, because we do run EMS calls. So my biggest thing was to protect my guys from catching COVID. So we got the necessary equipment and the necessary gear for them to wear, protective PPE, for them to wear to go into these houses so that we could still do EMS and help these people. And, you know, throughout the year that we've been dealing with COVID, you know, you listen to like some of the other departments that their guys were catching it, their guys were going down and they're out and so on and so forth. We stood firm with our protocol in-house and going on calls here in town, and the guys did an excellent job, and we kept everything to a minimal. I think we only came down with one or two firefighters that actually caught it, and it wasn't job related.
That's
So
incredible.
we kept things to a minimal, but we didn't cut our service to the citizens at all. We still did what we come here to do every day as professionals, and they did a great job, and I commend my guys.
Well, did there happen to be any more, since more people were at home consistently, were there more calls for service for you guys as a result, or not necessarily?
To be honest with you, our call volume only went up for EMS. It was your natural everyday thing for our normal calls that we run, but our EMS calls like skyrocketed. It went through the roof
Hmm.
just like it did anywhere else, you know.
Yeah,
And these
yeah.
guys here, they work tirelessly. You know, they work a 24-hour shift and then they're off for 72 and then they're back at it again here. You know, and I'm here 5 days a week and my deputy's here with me. So it was just in the beginning, it was chaos. It was havoc, you know. And but my guys, they didn't sway, they didn't, you know, get weary or anything. They just kept going. They pushed through it. And here we are today. And I think you know, when at the appropriate time, I'm going to sit down with each one of my crews and just congratulate them and thank them for the job that they did during the time of COVID.
Absolutely. I think that that's something that we're going to want to do for everybody that has been on the front lines. And I think now that we think we're on the other side of it, so things are
Yes.
looking up. So talk a little bit about, obviously we have a professional paid fire department, and many surrounding communities have volunteer fire departments. Talk about the difference and talk about how the shared service works, calls for service, and because from a taxpayer perspective, I'll be honest with you, I've heard say, okay, well, our taxes pay for this incredible fire department, and other surrounding communities are getting the benefit of the of what we're providing. How does that work? And just speak a little bit about how you guys support other communities.
Well, years ago, we used to be a combination department, whereas we had a volunteer segment of this department. But when the economic downturn happened and we had staff cuttings and things of that sort, we couldn't afford to fund that volunteer department anymore. So we basically abolished it, and now we're just a 100% career department. The biggest difference now between a career department and a volunteer department, the day of the volunteer is kind of fading due to the fact of it takes a lot with the certifications and the classes that you have to take to maintain your certifications as a firefighter. The average person just doesn't have the time to put into doing that with going to a normal job, you know, Monday to Friday, and then, you know, doing school at night or school on the weekends for 8 hours. You know, it's the everyday guy, this or woman, just doesn't have the time to do that. So whereas this is a part of our job, we have these certifications, and I provide for my guys the ability to take their classes to maintain their certifications. We train to a certain level, and we provide this service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're here. Whereas with the volunteer department, not putting down volunteers because, hey, I was a volunteer once in my career also, but with a volunteer department, when you dial 911 and you make that call and that dispatcher tones out the volunteers, now you have to wait for that volunteer to come from his house to the firehouse, get on the apparatus, and then come to your incident. Whereas here in Westfield, you dial 911, they tone us out. We're anywhere in town. We will have apparatus on scene anywhere in town, 2.5 to 3 minutes after being toned out.
Now,
So,
how does that call for shared service work with surrounding communities, and when does that happen typically?
well, it typically happens when there's a structure fire. Most departments in Union County are small departments. There's the bigger departments are like the city of Elizabeth or the city of Plainfield and Linden. They're a bigger department, but small towns like Westfield and Springfield and Cranford, we're small departments where our manpower is limited. So we all are a part of the Union County mutual aid system. So basically, um, if Westfield say we get inundated in calls and we can't handle what's coming in, we can't put out the service for it. We can call mutual aid and have a neighboring town assist us. But the main incident that mutual aid really kicks in for are structure fires. Structure fires are manpower intensive. It just takes up all your manpower, and none of us have the manpower for the initial first alarm to actually do everything that needs to be done. So the either the platoon commander or I myself as the chief, when I get on scene, I'll request a second alarm, and that's when the mutual aid system kicks in, and that's when it's more of a mutual aid system and not a shared service, because shared service,
Yeah, mutual aid, right?
you know, so, and we'll get an engine from Cranford, we'll get a truck company from Springfield, or we'll get an engine from Plainfield, things of that sort. As the fire grows, hopefully it doesn't grow too big, but as the fire grows, I can up to the next alarm. And the way that alarms work, um, your first alarm is usually two engines and a truck. So your second alarm, it's going to match what you roll to your first alarm. So that's what you're going to get coming to you. So every time you hear, as a citizen, you hear, oh, it went to three alarms. It's nine pieces of equipment,
Oh,
from other towns coming in and helping us out.
and so the neighboring communities with paid departments, Cranford, Plainfield, Summit,
Springfield, Summit,
Springfield, those are the
Roselle.
immediate ones. Yeah, Roselle, those are the immediate ones.
The way the mutual aid system works during the day, those are the first towns that are going to be toned out to come and help, because volunteers, they have a daily job, so most of them are at work, so they won't call the volunteers right away.
Right.
But at night, after 6 p.m., you'll probably get one paid town and two volunteers to come.
Got it. I see. Right.
So the system over the years, it's been adjusted, and it works really well. I happen to be a mutual aid coordinator, so I run all over Union County to the fires and assist and help out. So.
So Chief, so talk about staffing. A couple of questions for you in terms of, are you adequately staffed? And even about the makeup of the department. I think, you're the first Black fire chief in the history of the department. And I think you're the only person of color in the department, right?
Yes.
Talk about that, what that means to you professionally and personally, and your attempts and hopes to diversify the department going forward.
Well, I'll start with staffing. No, we're not adequately staffed. I'd like to get back to my full staffing of 40 men, which means we would have to hire 4 more firefighters to get me back to 40. As for diversity, from day one that I stepped into this department, I've never experienced any type of racism. I've never been treated otherwise or anything like that. I've been treated like one of the guys. This department, it is a great department. However, with it, with being right at this moment, with being the only man of color here, I don't see it. My guys treat me just as well as they treat anybody else, and I treat them the same way. We treat each other with respect around here, and we go about our day the best way we can. Creating diversity, that's one of my main goals in this role as the chief. And when I say diversity, I don't mean by race. I mean by race and by gender. So if there's, when the time comes and it could be a black man, a black woman, a white man, a white woman. if they perform well, they test well, and they have the certifications, then you could do the job. And I
Talk
don't
about
have a
that.
problem
Talk
with
about
that.
that process. Expound on that process a little bit. Like there's like, I know just to even get in the door, there's some qualifications that you
Yes.
have to have, right? So talk about that for anybody who's out there that's maybe interested in a firefighting career.
Here in town, the first thing with getting in the door, you have to be 21 years of age. And also you have to be certified fire 1 and 2. It used to be you had to be certified as an EMT also, but we took that out, and you have your first year after hire to become an EMT. So with getting your certifications, what what I normally do when I started here, like I said, we had a volunteer section. So the department sent you to the academy to get your certifications, but we don't have a volunteer section anymore, so we don't do that. So when someone comes to me and they don't have the credentials, what I'll do is I'll help them out, and I'll call up a neighboring chief that of a volunteer department, and I'll say, hey, listen, I have this young man or I have this young woman, and they want to be a firefighter. Can you help me out? I'm gonna send them to you, because the volunteer departments will take their members, their new members that come on, and they send them to the academy to get those credentials. Once you get those credentials, you don't have to stay with that volunteer department. You're certified within the state of New Jersey. So now you can go somewhere else. You can come to a town like Westfield and apply and take the written test and do the physical and things of that sort.
So just to be clear, somebody shouldn't even apply until they've got at least those fire 1 and 2 credentials, right? In Westfield.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. So, but if firefighting is what you think you want to do, and the reason why I say think, because this is not a job for everyone. This is something that when you go into the fire academy, you're going to find out things about yourself that you didn't even realize. When I was in the academy, I had a gentleman that was my partner. And once we started doing live burns, he was actually afraid of the dark, and he never knew it. He just figured, oh, no big deal. But when you put all of that gear on, and you put that mask on, and you're encapsulated, it brings out every fear in you, especially
Anxiety.
when you
Yeah.
enter the first room of fire. You're just like, what am I doing here? But if you can adapt to that and go on and do your job, but it's not a job for everybody.
So someone comes into you with the application, they've got the credentials, and then what's the next step in that process?
All
What
right.
other things do they have to do?
We give a written test every 2 years, all right, for entry level. So once they apply to take the written test, they take the written test, and you have to score a 70 or above to go to the next phase. The second phase of the testing process is the physical agility test, and that's when we already have an agility test that we run on our candidates, and so then you'll get they score 70 or better, and then they take the physical agility test, and you have to pass every station to get a passing grade, and once you pass the physical agility test, you get a score, because it's all based on time. And then for each score that you get, we put it all together, and we come out with an average, and that's how you get your ranking. All right. And then from there, the last step of the process is an interview with the executive panel, which consists of myself, the deputy chief, and two of my tour commanders. So you'll go in front of four chiefs, and you'll do an oral interview, and that's how we pick from there. Then
So it's a serious process of elimination.
It's an in-depth process. It takes a while to complete, and then once we pick if I have one opening, but the way it works around here, all my openings are full until someone retires. And then when someone retires, it creates a little bit of a ripple effect, especially if that person has rank, because then everyone has to move up, creating an opening at the bottom. And then what we'll do is, if I have one position open, I may interview 5 people. I may interview 10 people. And then from the oral interview, I will pick the best candidate that we, the executive board, saw fit for this position.
So when someone comes in and applies and gets this process and there isn't an immediate opening, do you kind of keep those applications on file, if you will, and would
Yes.
reach out to them?
Once we rank everyone and we have our list, that list is good for 2 years.
I
So
see.
even if there is an immediate opening and you don't get that job, you remain on that list for 2 years.
For 2 years.
So
That's
in
great.
2 years in the fire service, anything can happen.
That's right.
So I try and tell a lot of the young candidates, don't get discouraged. And also though, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, if you're applying in Westfield, take the test in Westfield. But don't make that the only test that you take.
Right.
When you're trying to get on a job in the fire service, take multiple tests and take the first one that comes to you. And that's what I tell a lot of young people that I know, a lot of candidates that have come through Westfield.
Now, what proactive efforts are you making to attract more diverse candidates to apply?
That is something that I've been working on my own. However, with COVID, you couldn't do anything. But I would like to try and get into the school system, into the high school, and see if we can, if they could do a career day or something like that, something to where is myself and my staff, we can sit down and we can talk to these young candidates and let them know what the fire service is all about and let them know what the process is and what they have to do to become a Westfield firefighter.
That's great. Now, what are the challenges in particular with attracting women?
The biggest challenge with attracting women is it's the I guess the physical part of the job, you know, but this last test that we gave, we had 13 women that applied. And out of the 13, I believe 7 did well on the test. So
That's great.
You just you gotta want it. You know, it's not something, like I said before, it's not something for the everyday person. You actually have to want it because it's physically grueling. You know, it beats you up really bad. But if you want it in your heart, firefighting's in your heart. It's not in your pocket, not in your hand. It's in your heart. And if you really want to do it, you're going to make it happen for yourself.
And I think probably as chief, it's important to let everyone know that we want it too, right? Like in terms of just laying it out there, that's a priority. It might encourage more applicants.
Because and my guys have heard me say it before. I don't care what color you are, what minority. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you can do the job, you deserve the job. That's all it is to
now, that so that brings me to the next question, because there are some, you and I talked about this, even related to the physical layout of the firehouse. So talk about, and I think we've said very publicly that we need a new firehouse, and and talk about why that is, what your hope is, and even related to having women firefighters, the limitations that our current firehouse imposes. So talk a little bit about the need and the urgency of a new firehouse for the department.
This firehouse here on North Avenue, our headquarters, was built in 1911. So it's pretty old, you know. And it's outdated, and it's too small for us. We've outgrown this building. One of the major things that we would like to accomplish in with getting a new firehouse is we have to, when you have certifications, you have to recertify every year. And we don't have the props or places to actually recertify here in-house. So we have to go off-site to recertify. So that's one of the bigger things, would be built-in training props, so that we can recertify our guys on duty and whenever we're ready to do it. Yeah, and it would cut back on, because when we have to go off-site, we actually have to do it when they're off duty. So we either have to give them comp time or we have to pay them somehow, some way. So it's more feasible for us to have a bigger firehouse personally, because so that we can facilitate on-site training prompts. Also with equipment, um, it's a small firehouse. So when you go out to shop or buy for a new ladder truck or a new engine, it has to be built to spec to fit inside this firehouse. So I mean, this firehouse was built in 1875 and it housed horses in a cart. You know, so now it's housing large pieces of equipment. You know, so it has to. If you have a good sized firehouse, then you can put whatever type of equipment you want in that firehouse. The other thing is when it comes down to staffing and things of that sort, we were talking about diversity. If a young woman was to get a job here as a career, I have nowhere to put her, meaning a dorm. We don't have a female dorm here. We do have a restroom that has a shower in it, but when it comes to having a dorm room, we don't have that. And technically, if you by law, I think you can still say, all right, well, when it comes time that everybody's going into the dorm, you have to have on shorts and a t-shirt, things of that sort. But to me, that's opening a can of worms. You can't do that. So I would like to be able to have a, a male dorm and a female dorm, and this way I facilitate either and and have accommodations so that everyone's safe and everyone's comfortable. You know, so in this firehouse, I would have to basically convert what we use a room as a museum. I'd have to convert that into a female dorm area to house a female firefighter here. So just that fact alone of not being able to house either gender in the same house, you have to have it. You have to have a new firehouse in this town.
And Chief, isn't there, I thought I remember hearing even some safety protocols that were not able to accommodate, like if you came back from a fire, isn't there supposed to be like a separate place to, I don't know, hose off, and we don't have that ability either. Is that,
Right.
is that correct?
There is the biggest thing in the fire service, one of the biggest things in the fire service right now is cancer. And they're finding that through our gear, the carcinogens through our gear just, absorb and it goes right into our skin. And and that's how a lot of firefighters are contracting cancer. And to stop the spread of it in the firehouse, they now have, when you have a new firehouse built, they have what they call a flow plan. So when you come back from a house fire, you have to there's actually arrows that are painted on the floor, and there's certain rooms that you have to go through first. And in each room, the first room, you strip down out of all your gear, and that gear gets bagged and gets sent out for decon. And then you go into the next room, and the next room could be the shower. But you would have to go through like a 5-step process before you can enter back on the general population floor in the firehouse. So it's something that we don't have that here. Our guys get off the rigs, they strip out of their turnout gear, the gear stays right there next to the trucks, and then away you go throughout the firehouse. So there's a video that I would love to show you and the council if I can get my hands on it. And what basically it is, it's a firefighter, and they use shaving cream to as a carcinogen. And she takes the shaving cream and she puts it in her hands, and then she gets in the fire truck, and then she gets off the fire truck, and she's in the firehouse, and it shows everywhere she touches and everywhere she leaves carcinogens. And it's a very, very informative video that I'm going to try and get, because I would like to show you and the council this video. I think you guys would get a lot out of this video.
So, So talk about then, Chief, your main priorities and kind of your vision for the future for the department, and ultimately what you would want your legacy to be here.
My biggest vision for this department is to get us back out in the community, in the eye of the community, become a part of the community. You know, I always refer back to like when I started. When I started here, the thing was keep the doors closed, out of sight, out of mind, and it worked back then. But in today's world, people want to see, you know, who my firefighters are, and I want everyone to know who we are and what we do. And the best way to do that is even with Quimby Street being shut down, you know, I tell my guys, go walk around town. You know, if we're not on the call, you're not training or anything, go walk around town. We have to get back out in the community and show everyone who we are, what we do, and let people know we're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's nonstop for us. We are
Is it
not.
fair to ask? Is it fair to ask? Let's just say if the scouts were doing a big meeting or something, to invite you or your guys to come and bring a truck or talk. Are those the types of things you'd like to?
Those are definitely the types of things. You know, not last year, the year before, when we did opening day for the baseball league, that was great because I believe I put one of the engines in the parade. You know, things of that.
Yes.
And we just want to show the community that we are part of this community.
So it's good. So we'll put it out there too for anybody that's watching, that if they are having any type of community event, that they shouldn't hesitate to reach out to see if there's a way that you guys could participate. That's fair?
That's fair. That's fair. My guys will be there. They'll show the kids the trucks, the equipment that we use. We actually miss doing that. That's something that we used to do for, you know, block parties. People would say, "Oh, can a fire truck come to my block party?" And my guys would go and they would show the equipment.
Oh, that's great.
It's a great feeling, you know, just to let.
How about those? What are those? What are they? Are those wet downs? Is that what they call when they spray? Like, do we do those, or did we ever do those?
No, we don't do those. That's more of a volunteer thing. They do.
Oh, got it. All right.
You know, I don't think the citizens of Westfield would like a wet down to see a brand new $600,000 vehicle get soaked with water. So.
Well, hopefully we'll have National Night Out again, and we can showcase some of the, you know, your guys and some of the new equipment and so forth. So as things seems to getting back to some sense of normalcy.
Yes. Yes.
So tell me, so what do you like when, you know, you look forward and then like to reflect back? Like, what do you want your legacy to be here?
I want people to remember me here as just being a fair chief, and I treated everybody fair and gave everybody a shot. This is that sign out front of this building doesn't say Tony Tiller's Fire Department. It says Westfield Fire Department, and we're a team here. We're a family. We all work together. You know, we know each other's families. We know each other's kids, moms, so on and so forth. And I just want everyone to say, when they say Chief Anthony Tiller, they go, you know what? That guy is fair. He was a good guy. That's my good.
Well, I always say, you know, and for those that interact with the public, I think generally how they interact with the public is a reflection of how they're treated.
Correct.
And I've witnessed firsthand the great culture that you've created within the department and what you're bringing, and it's really fantastic because you are a proud native son of Westfield, and so we're thrilled to have you in that role.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, and, you gave me a shot that I'm greatly appreciative of.
Well, you earned it. So it wasn't, you are absolutely earned it, and we're thrilled. So I'm actually just going to ask Kim if there's been any questions that have come from the public.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Chief. Yes, we have one question from Caitlin Magala, who would just like to know when the next hiring opportunity will be for the department.
The next test is going to be given, I believe, in 2022, October of 2022. That'll be the entry-level test.
And Chief, just to be clear, in advance of that, someone should be working on those 1 and 2 certifications that you mentioned. Is that correct?
Correct. It will go out in the newspaper. It'll be on social media, and it will tell you what requirements you need to have before you even request an application.
And people should follow, it's the Westfield FMBA 30, right? That's
Right.
your social media, and that's where all the information regarding, and any news about the fire department, including hiring and so forth, will be on, will
It'll,
be there, right?
it'll go on there, and it'll also go on the new website. The new
Fantastic.
town website, that is.
That's, yes, which, yes, which will be launching soon.
Yes.
Kim, anything else?
Not at this time. No, no other questions.
So Chief, any questions for me?
Let's see. Nah.
That you're allowed to ask publicly?
Look, nah, I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Well, listen, thank you so much for, we're incredibly proud of you and the department. And, you know, I agree that we need a new firehouse. And we hopefully that's going to be in our plans as part of the overall redevelopment initiatives that are going on in town. So we definitely have a new firehouse on that agenda. The specifics of where and how are still to be determined, but obviously you're going to be intimately involved in that planning. So, so we look forward to bringing the fire department with you into the next century. So thank you for your service, Chief, very much, and for being here today.
Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.